What's up, y'all? My name's Kevin. I'm a junior at Pitzer. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm also a media studies major and a Spanish minor. I also work as a music producer, and I just love like incorporating arts into media, like just like putting artistic content out there because I think arts are so undervalued right now in our educational system. So yeah. All right, Proposition 22. Um, this is a very interesting proposition, and it will affect me personally and a lot of college students and students around the United States. These are all, so the pictures, the text screenshot, and there's also an email screenshot from DoorDash. They're on the left of your screen. Those were both sent to me from DoorDash. Um, and I work as a DoorDash dasher. I used to work for Postmates, but in my opinion, Postmates is a lot tougher to work for. DoorDash, you already know what you're going to get paid before you start your trip, which is super nice because you can cancel stuff. So I've been doing DoorDash from now on. But this is what they actually sent me. And it's kind of scary to get messages from a huge corporation telling you who to vote for. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And then on your right side, you see those are the two most popular vote no logos on Prop 22. Oh, and if you wouldn't mind going to the next screen. This video just shows some advertisements from rideshare and food delivery companies that have been prevalent on the media right now, especially in the state of California.
Uber and Lyft are pushing a proposition this November they say is vital to their survival in California. You may have already seen their ads. With a hotly contested election year, ABC 10 News wants to make sure you have the facts to make an informed decision. Reporter John Horn is digging into the claims as part of our new segment called Truth Be Told.
I only do this because it fits my lifestyle and what I do.
For Chelsea Scott, driving for Uber and Lyft is all about flexibility. It frees him up for his real passion, being the lead singer for a Foo Fighters cover band called the Faux Fighters.
Thank you!
That's why he's especially concerned about the future of Uber and Lyft, where he works as an independent contractor.
We're not getting benefits. We don't get any of those things. And I knew that coming into this. This wasn't a trick of any kind.
Things, however, are going to change one way or another. Last year, the state passed Assembly Bill 5, requiring Uber drivers like Scott to be reclassified as employees, guaranteeing them a swath of rights and protections. Uber and Lyft say that's not sustainable in California and are instead floating Proposition 22, which would keep them as independent contractors with some protections and money for health care. The rideshare companies and DoorDash are paying for this ad, supporting Prop 22 and assailing AB 5.
Unemployment has skyrocketed. What do state politicians do? Pass a drastic law that could eliminate hundreds of thousands of jobs.
Truth be told, the state approved AB 5 last year before the coronavirus was even discovered. But the ad makes a key point. Under AB 5, it will be illegal for rideshare drivers to work as independent contractors,
threatening to shut down rideshare and food delivery services.
Truth be told, AB 5 doesn't shut down the services, but the services themselves could make the decision to shut down. Employment attorney Dan Eaton says overall, the core point of the ad stands, that jobs could be cut.
They're saying, well, all right, fine, don't do this, but then don't complain when Uber and Lyft pull out of California.
The ad says Prop 22, quote, protects drivers' abilities to work as independent contractors and saves critical jobs. But for voters, it's all about whether they see that as a protection. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
We'll be conducting a similar Truth Be Told story on the No on 22 campaign if we get an ad from them. And meantime, we have links to this ad and all of the sources that we used in our fact check on 10news.com.
So I find it really interesting, the selective information that's included in those ads, and how rideshare companies are basically saying, yeah, if Proposition 20 22 isn't passed, then what's going to happen is all the rideshare companies are just going to go away. And that's not the government's decision. That's totally their decision, because it'll just be a lot more expensive to have employees in California after that. It's the real issue. Would you mind going to the next slide for me, Owen? So here's the fine print. And I just wanted to go over some of the terms because it's a little bit confusing, as all government propositions are sometimes. But basically, it's an initiative responding to the 2019 California Assembly Bill 5. And a lot of lawmakers refer to this as AB 5. So if you ever hear AB, it means Assembly Bill 5. And Proposition 22 would overturn that Assembly bill and classify app-based drivers as independent contractors rather than employees. And the difference between independent contractors and employees is that independent contractors don't legally have to have health benefits from the companies that they're working for. And they, in turn, can schedule their own drives and their own work times. And an employee in the state of California has a lot more set schedule, and they get more state benefits through healthcare, insurance, etc. So voting yes on Proposition 22 would allow app-based rideshare and delivery companies to hire drivers as independent contractors instead of as employees. Drivers that are independent contractors could be able to decide when, where, and how many hours to work. It's also really important to note that at the end of the day, all of the rideshare companies are the ones who get to tell the employees how they can work and if they can set their schedule. So voting yes on Proposition 22 would basically make rideshare companies not mad, and it would continue that. But if the no happens, they, one, could pull out of California, and two, they would probably, as kind of a punishment, say that you can't set your schedule anymore, that you'll have to have a lot more set hours, which would, for me personally, and I'll go, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, Owen. And that would like greatly influence people's abilities to schedule their work and kind of have a lot more flexibility in their lives. Independent contractors will not get the benefits and protections that typical employees would receive from companies. So voting no on Proposition 22 would provide the exact opposite of the aforementioned descriptions. So yeah, if you are an independent contractor, you do not get those benefits and protections that a California employee would. Can you go to the next slide as well, Owen? So for me personally, I work as a DoorDash driver. And if Proposition 22 is not passed, it would greatly affect my ability to work, since I would not be allowed to set my schedule nearly as much as I am now. To be clear, those limitations would be enforced by the rideshare companies, not by the government. So it's not the government's fault if Proposition 22 isn't passed and I can't set my schedule. It is totally the rideshare company's fault. But in all of their advertisements, they're talking about it as if it's the government's fault. So that's really interesting to look at in their advertisements. Yeah, as a college student, it would totally influence my style of living. I'd have to find another job with a more set schedule. I wouldn't be able to attend as many classes. I couldn't cook all my food. I'd probably have to go buy more meals because I wouldn't have as much time, stuff like that. The biggest plus for me for rideshare jobs is the flexibility. That's the reason why I work DoorDash, is because when I'm done with a specific class on Thursday, I can take 2 hours out of my day and go work and make some money. If this wasn't the case, I probably wouldn't work DoorDash anymore at all. Would you mind going to the next slide? And here is a table that presents data on the likely voter preferences on Proposition 22 in regards to party preferences. So you can just take a look at that. And yeah, that's about it. Does anybody have any questions? It's an interesting proposition because at the end of the day, what should really happen is the US should just give universal healthcare. That's my belief. There should be, I would love for Proposition 22 to be passed, but also for a universal healthcare bill to be passed among the United States. Because as an independent contractor worker, I would love benefits. I would love to have insurance, of course. The fact that I don't get insurance from working DoorDash is horrible. It's inhumane. At the same time, I can't vote no for Proposition 22 because it would totally limit the amount of hours I could work and would make me not want to work DoorDash at all. So it's kind of between a rock and a hard place in this decision for me. Do you have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I've been seeing like a lot of like posts and stories and like especially like on Instagram, like advocating against Prop 22 because based on the fact that it was like funded and advertised by the companies that it benefits. So like it's like it's kind of hard to like decide whether to vote on it or not because like you want welfare for the workers, but at the same time these corporations are forcing you to like vote for the bill. So like it just proves that like corporations will do anything to keep their profits up. I don't know.
It's very obvious that the drafting of this bill was highly influenced by those corporations. The amount of advertising money that went into this is insane. I think it's one of the highest advertising budgets for any bill in the past like 20 years. You could take a look at that, but I think it's over 40 or $50 million has already been spent on the advertising of that bill, which is crazy.
Sorry, Kevin. I can just like give a point. I think that this prop is a really good way of showing that like maybe the fight isn't necessarily in the proposition itself, but more I think like the between the rock and a hard place that you were talking about, Kevin, is like a really good way of seeing like what propositions are trying to fix like aren't always perfect solutions, and like we should be trying to aim for like more systemic change at times. Like I think the problem here with Prop 22 is the fact that healthcare is tied to employment and medical insurance is tied to employment, and I think like you can struggle with whether to vote for Prop 22 for or against being totally fine, but I think like educating yourself on propositions is a really good way of like understanding like the troubles people are having to begin with. So like if you can, I think that's a really good way to advocate for issues in the future too. So just me going off.
Thank you. I also wanted to add that the US is one of the only countries in the world that doesn't provide healthcare for their citizens. And it's insane. So this bill wouldn't even need to be an issue if the US could just provide that basic service to their citizens in which they deserve. An ambulance ride shouldn't cost $5,000. You should never be in debt for having an illness. Like it's insane. So
if you'd like to keep up with our initiative in the future, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all at youth2020vision.